David, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Pleasure.
Thought it'd be an opportunity for us to have a chat. It's been probably the best part of a couple of months now since you took over as chairman, and I thought it was a good idea, and you did as well. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, just doing a little chat to keep the fans up to date and keep them informed with what's going on.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Leatherhead Football Club. We're going to talk about what's been happening since you've taken over on the field and off the field as well, because they're both important. And we'll hopefully get an update from you and any messages that you want to give to the fan during the course of this interview this evening. But before we do that, I think it's important we find out a little bit more about David Pope, the person, not the chairman, the person.
The person.
So, David, I know you've been a lifelong Leatherhead fan, but tell us a little bit about your love affair with the Tanners.
Yeah, not a lifelong actually, because I know there'll be people that pick you up on that. But I'm Portsmouth born and bred, so I'm a Pompey fan. My brother and sister and my mother's still down there, so I go down there fairly regularly. But so yeah, I was a season ticket holder when I was younger at Portsmouth, but I also went along to see Waterlooville play, who were my local non-league side. So they used to play alternate Saturdays to Portsmouth, so that worked out quite well. And I really developed a love of non-league football really at that, because I used to go along with my brother to Waterlooville. And in fact, some of the teams that we used to play, Met Police, Tunbridge, you know, these sort of teams, we Waterlooville played at that point. And then I remember, actually, I did put this in a Twitter post the other day, that age 12, I remember watching Match of the Day. And I remember there was this team, Leatherhead, who were playing in the FA Cup in the fourth round. Or was it the fifth round? Fourth round.
It's probably for us, but I'm sorry.
Against Leicester at Filbert Street. And
was it 78?
75.
75.
And I remember watching it and was fascinated by it. Well, I had no idea as a 12-year-old where Leatherhead was, but little did I know that 48 years later I would be the chairman of this club that I didn't know existed. But what happened is that in 1987 my work moved me to a job in London. So I and my wife, Gail, we moved up to Surrey, so that I could commute into London and so forth. And obviously, as a fan of non-league, I started looking at clubs locally, and hey presto, blimey, it's Leatherhead. I remember them. And I was aware of their history and, you know, with Chris Kelly, the Leatherhead Lip and so forth. So, yeah, started going on. That would have been, so we moved up here in 87, so it would have been in the 90s, because we had a young family, so they took up a lot of time. But in the 90s, I started coming down here.
Okay, brilliant. And so, since becoming a supporter, since watching the Tanners, who has been your sort of favourite player? I know everyone talks about the Lip, because, you know, iconic status at Leatherhead, and there's other players in that team as well from the FA Cup games. But so you sort of came in post that. So from the point where you came and started watching down here at Fletching Road, who would you say has been the player that you've seen over the years? There might be one or two. Yeah,
I had a funny feeling you were going to ask me that, actually, because there have been so many great players over the years, so many players actually. But I was sort of thinking, I was trying to think through like positions, like defensively. You know, there were players a lot of fans have recognised. People like Jamie Beer, over 200 games for Leatherhead, so dependable as a right back. Ian Hendry played over 400 times, centre back. And, you know, these are really nice guys as well as great footballers and servants. So I was thinking about them, and then I was thinking midfield. Would it be a midfielder? Paul Mackay, Macca was always a great servant and a great footballer. You know, used to play professional for Burnley and came down to us. Mark Simmons, who was a great player for actually Mick Sullivan's team that won the last trophy we won. Mark Simmons was the centre of his midfield and was just a sublime player with so much time on the ball. So he was a consideration. Then I thought about attack. We've had so many great sort of attackers, buccaneering centre forwards like Tom Bradbrook. He was a favourite. Tommy Hutchings was a great player. You know, played well over 250 games for us. Jack Midson, I thought about him. Is he a favourite? Dave Stevens, who was just a great goal poacher. But I eventually came down to one name, which was Alex Inglethorpe.
Right, okay.
Who could play midfield or attack. Was just a great footballing brain, really. Scored a lot of goals, great passer of the ball, great vision, and he was playing manager at the time, in his late 20s or early 30s. And my wife got to know him because she was his physio, on-field pitch physio for 2 years,
right.
2 seasons. So, and he, again, such a great person, and of course he's ended up as director of the academy at Liverpool.
Yeah, I'll say that's a name. I mean, we started rattling through those names. I'm thinking, with a great respect to those guys, because they were before my time. I'm thinking, never heard of him, never. And then you got to Jack Meadson. I know him.
Yeah.
And Alex Inglethorpe I only know of because I've heard the stories about him playing here and where he is now. Actually, he hasn't done too bad, really, is he? I suppose since leaving Leatherhead.
No, and again, such a great guy. So Alex Inglethorpe.
What about goalkeepers? Come on.
Zaki. Yeah, great personality, and a great servant and loyal to the, with everything going on around, and just a great keeper. Just, everybody said, oh, he's not very big for a keeper, but what a great shot stopper. I never saw him caught out on a cross either.
No, so, fantastic. He's very deceiving, and I know Zaki quite well because he trains half and on occasion, and he works a lot on being able to spring and leap. And I've seen him leap and catch balls that 6'2" goalkeepers can catch, and he catches those as well. So there is that common misconception about goalkeepers being a little bit short. We know he's not the tallest, but I thought he was by far just a brilliant goalkeeper and a really, really lovely lad as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is important as well.
It is really important. Yeah.
So Pompey fan at heart?
Absolutely.
You still follow him?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a lot of mates who are season ticket holders. Absolutely, yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Look, let's talk about any other hobbies that you do outside of football. Do you play golf?
Well,
cricket?
Not really. I used to play cricket, but so we have a motorhome, so we enjoy that. But my biggest love, personally, is music. As some people may know. So I've always played in bands, but I've always generally played other people's songs. But I on my bucket list was to record. I'd always written songs as well, just me and a guitar. But I'd had these songs that I wanted to record, and in December and January, I managed to achieve that goal of mine, that personal goal, and it was just such a fantastic experience. The whole creative process, and then the output as well. So the process itself was brilliant, and then I'm really pleased with the output. So much so, I'm going to carry on and do some more. But I've always loved music. I've always been to lots of gigs and stuff. I've always been a big gig goer until relatively recently, really. But I still go now and again.
So you're in a band, which I know,
yeah.
And I believe you've been supported recently by that very nice chap that works at the local radio station on the breakfast show on a Saturday morning.
Yeah,
thank you. That's quite all right. Your guys as a singer, songwriter, producer, is
Grove Cider.
Grove Cider. Now, where did you get that name from?
Well, it's very interesting because there are 2 reasons I'm Grove Cider. I actually live in a road called Groveside.
Okay.
And of course,
can I just say, that's not what I've been telling everybody on the radio. I've been telling people it's because you're a lifelong Leatherhead FC.
But that works as well, you see. So that's why I say there are 2 reasons.
Good.
That's where I live, and also B, obviously Fetching Grove. I am a Fetching Grove Cider.
And there can't be many football clubs that have got a chairman that's in a rock band, basically.
Well, no, I think Gareth Ainsworth, isn't it, from Wickham Wanderers, who's manager.
Yes.
He's in a rock band, so
he's not there anymore.
But isn't he?
No.
But I've always liked fast guitar music. I'm not one for sort of soppy stuff. I like to be in your face with it and stuff. So
and I've got to say, the track that you sent me, which is Only a Matter of Time.
Yeah.
It's not really my type of music. I'm more into my soul, my dance music, as you know. But it has grown on me.
Good.
It's
like mold.
It's in my head. I keep singing it, the chorus over and over again.
That was one of my objectives with the record, which was to produce earworms. So catchy, powerful, sort of punky, but catchy songs, and that came out. A number of people have said that to me, that they've sort of listened to it and then they found themselves humming it later. So for me, that's a tick in the box, definitely.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you, on that note, I think we should hear a little bit, shall we?
Why not?
Okay, so that's a little snippet of one of the tracks from your new album, Only a Matter of Time.
Yeah.
How can the fans and anybody watching the video find out a little bit more about David Pope or Grove Cider?
Yeah, Grove Cider is on all streaming services, so Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, Apple Music, and also grovecider.bandcamp.com. So yeah, it's on all services basically. Please give it a listen and share if you like it.
If you send me the link, I'll put it in the description on the video when we put it up onto YouTube.
Brilliant.
Right? There you go. So
great advert.
Almost like your manager. 10%. What was that? 10%. That's quite cheap. 10% nowadays, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with talking now about David Pope, the chairman.
Yes.
So you took over at the end of January.
Yep.
You've not been in the position a long time.
No.
What has been the main challenges for you so far?
So just going back, I became a director in November, and I guess immediately got into then, and as chairman, addressing the major challenge that faces the club, which is balancing the books, because at the end of last year or sort of October, really we didn't have a proper handle on the finances as a club. So there was a bit of a lack of control, as in knowing where you are. And when we did find out where we were, there wasn't as much in the pot as we thought there was.
Right. And
the club. So the challenge is addressing that really, and that's where we've been really focused, and that has meant some difficult decisions. So we've had to control costs a lot harder than perhaps we would have wanted to in a normal scenario, because we were projecting by the end of the season that we would run out of cash.
Right. Okay.
And cash is really important, because that's what pays all the bills. It pays the players' wages, and it costs a lot of money to run this club, and it's really important that I think supporters understand that, because they can help us with that. So that's been really a hard graft actually of everybody, all the board. We had a meeting with the volunteers, and at the supporters meeting we said this as well, and everybody has played their part in that. And I mean everybody, on and off the pitch, Hayden and the team as well. We've had to look at where the costs have been made. We've had to make some adjustments to the cost base. And we've also looked at ways of increasing the revenue. So, that's how you address these issues, is you have control over your costs, cut them if you have to, cut your cloth, and then try and increase your revenue, or do both, which is what we have been doing.
I remember I interviewed Gerald a couple of years ago. We did a sort of Skype interview.
Yeah.
And he said football is a strange business, if you like, because you're playing with money and you're forecasting money that you haven't got in the bank yet.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, because you're doing that quite often.
Yeah.
You're doing that at the start of the season, and you then continue to do it throughout the season.
Yeah.
And we all know that the winter hit us quite hard, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like it would have done every other club.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you've got a 3G pitch, of course, or
Yeah.
4G pitch, or whatever it is nowadays.
Yeah.
There was a lot of games that were postponed, weren't there? Just before Christmas, December, and even leading into January because of the icy pitches. And that hit us hard, didn't it?
It hits us and every club like us really hard, because, I've suddenly become an expert in the weather, because you just find yourself watching the weather forecast like for Saturday and the days leading up to it, because the revenue we get from a Saturday game is twice as much as we get from a postpone, if that game is postponed and it's played on a Tuesday evening, when Champions League is on TV and there are, you know, people have been to work and they may not want to come out. So, you know, those are some of the stresses and the challenges. Is, you know, you can put your plans in place, but there are things outside of your control. So I think my sort of the way I've always run businesses that I've been involved in over, you know, my 40 years of working, is you've got to have control, you've got to have visibility, you've got to understand the moving parts of this business. And this is a business. You know, we've got employees, we've got players who are employees, we've got volunteers who rely on us, we've got, you know, bar staff. You know, we're a great community. We have like 50 people working in and around this club to keep it going. And you need to be on top of the finances of all of that, in and out. And we weren't. Frankly, we weren't. And, you know, having Lawrence Herbert back as finance director is fantastic, because I've worked with him before when I was on the committee before, 10 years ago, and he is so great with the detail. And that's what you want. And we weren't on the detail.
So we're in a better place now.
We're in a really far better place.
Good.
And we can talk about the board in a minute, maybe, and some of that stuff. But yeah, we're on top of it. Now, that doesn't mean to say we're out of the woods. Absolutely not, because, you know, we are still forecasting it's going to be really tight. But we've got a handle on it, and that's the main thing.
Excellent. So have you found the role demanding?
Yes.
And
my wife has as well. Yeah. Actually, it's not more demanding than I thought it was going to be, because I knew it was demanding.
Yeah.
But it is all-encompassing. I mean, it's every day. And, you know, there are other things in life, but there's lots of moving parts. There's lots of people. And, you know, one of my mantras is openness and transparency. Well, you've got to communicate to be open and transparent, which means you've got to talk with loads of people. But, you know, we're sharing the workload. We've got a great team now, a top team, and we've got the round pegs in round holes, which helps. So, yeah, it's looking good, but it is pretty full on.
Yeah, I can well imagine. Speaking of team in right places, we've already had a big shuffle around in the ballroom, and I'm just going to go through these, and perhaps you can just touch on some of those people, not necessarily all, because we know what you're doing as the chairman, but what they do in their particular roles and how that benefits the club. So we've got yourself, obviously, as chairman. John Dean is the vice chair.
So John, let's take them one by one. John, who, as many of you may know, is also a good friend of mine, I've known a long time, and used to work for Crystal Palace. He was on the board of Crystal Palace, focusing on their community and youth development. And I think that's an area, certainly on the community side, relationships with the council, who we want to foster on a number of levels, both as our landlord. And by the way, you know, John was instrumental in renewing our lease here. We've now got a new 25-year lease for the football club, which gives us a lot of security. But John came back on board in October, and, you know, without him, we would probably run out of money. So, you know, the fans, there's a big thank you to John, because, you know, he started that focus on the fact, you know, that we've got a handle on our finances now. Community, he's focusing on a council, and also sort of contractual stuff. We, as a club, we have a number of contracts. I'm not talking about player contracts, I'm talking about with people like Do the Pitch and other things. And we just need to make sure those contracts are good for the club and in right order.
Lawrence, on the finances, we've already touched on him, so we know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Mick's stepped down. Mick's become football operations director. What exactly does that involve for Mick? And I think we've got to go on record saying what a brilliant job Mick did.
Yeah, and I definitely want to do that. I want to reiterate again, I've said it a number of times and I'll keep saying it, because, you know, when we got relegated at the end of last season, I mean, the club was, you know, we had the sort of euphoria of trying to stay up, and then we sort of failed to do that. And then, you know, following that, you know, that's bad news, you know, when you're relegated. And there was a real chance that we would all get down the doldrums. And he took it by the scruff of the neck and sort of reinvigorated the volunteers and, you know, round the ground and stuff like that. So, you know, hats off to him for that. He's good. He's a football guy.
And he loves Leatherhead, doesn't he?
Absolutely, and he's focused on it, and you know, he's a great part of our team. But we've got him focused on the bit he's really good at, which is like the football and, you know, liaising with the volunteers and stuff like that.
Brilliant. And Debbie's come on board as well as director.
Yeah, Debbie's just such a sort of a force of nature, really. I mean, she's got so much commitment to this club. You know, she's the licensee. The way she's grabbed hold of the clubhouse and, you know, really accepted responsibility for getting the bookings up and making sure that the experience when people do hire it and on a match day are what people should expect. And, you know, are we making any money over the bar? You know, what's the profitability? So in conjunction with a number of us and Lawrence, she's really sort of, you know, and got the team working well. We get some great compliments. You know, every week we get emails from people who've hired it saying, you know, they've done such a great job behind the bar. And, you know, that's down to Debbie making sure that all those guys know their responsibilities and so forth.
Yeah, I remember before she took the role, I remember seeing her when I think Mark Green was a sponsor. And I remember watching her during one of those match days where she was looking after Mark and his partner and a friend and someone else that was there with him in the party. And she was excellent. She was, and I said to her, I remember saying, "You're really good at this." You could just see she's obviously a real people's person, which helps. And she was very good at it. So it doesn't surprise me that you know, she's slotted into that role and doing a good job.
Oh, so, yeah, and she's a businesswoman as well. So again, her general business skills have really brought a lot. And you know, we had a meeting that she ran with Hayley and Natalie and all the guys, Donna and everybody. You know, the tea bar and the bar, and it was a really great, positive meeting. Even though we were saying like there's pressure on costs, and you know we need to look at all of those things. So that's a mark of what she's brought.
Gerald still involved, Gerald Darby?
Gerald, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Gerald is what I would term as the sort of wise counsel to us. You know, he sort of listens in at board meetings. You know, we're having board meetings every fortnight, so it's quite a big commitment for everybody. And, you know, he's like, you know, maybe you want to think about that again, or, you know, when we used to do that, we thought of it this way. So he's bringing a lot.
He's got that experience.
Yeah, exactly. We need to draw on that.
And then we've got a new club sporting director, Junior Caddy.
Junior Caddy.
Is it Caddy?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yes.
apologies. Junior
Cads
Caddy.
or due to his
who
friend.
I met for the first time Saturday. Said hello to him as I was passing through.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him. What's he going to be doing?
Yeah, his role, I mean, he's a good friend of Hayden's. And until, I think, November, through maybe December, he was involved at Dulwich Hamlet. Having been a pro footballer himself, and in fact played for Dulwich Hamlet for a number of years, and in fact for those older fans who remember the playoff when we beat Dulwich Hamlet 4-3 with Kevin Terry hitting a hat-trick, well, Junior was playing in that game, and I remind him of that often. He was the assistant manager at Dulwich Hamlet for 13 years with a guy called Gavin Rose as manager. So 13 years, and they took Dulwich Hamlet from the division we're in through to where they are now in the National League South over 13 years, and increased their gates from an average of about 150 to nearly 3,000 now.
It's amazing what they get.
It's an amazing story, and Junior was actually a key part of that. He also runs a football academy, a really well respected football academy, and several of those players are actually in our team now. So he's also a superb coach, so he's assisting Tutu and Hayden on the coaching side, but off the pitch, you know, he has strong commercial contacts, and he's going to be helping me. So I'm not just chairman; I'm sort of also leading the commercial development, as in increasing the revenues coming into in the club, and Junior and I are leading the charge on that one.
And the announcement that we put out to bring him on board was extremely well received.
Yeah.
I mean, the response that we had just on Twitter from people that know him, and every single one of them have been positive.
Yeah,
absolutely positive, saying what a great guy you've got there.
I mean, he I don't know how many Twitter hits we'll get or views we'll get to this video, but when we put the announcement out, or you put the announcement out, the last time I looked at it, it was approaching 40,000 views, and that's because he's a very well respected, and we are so fortunate to have him as a key part of our team, and draw on that experience that he's had at Dulwich and elsewhere. So he's such a nice guy as well. Again, we like nice people. We are nice people.
That's important.
Yeah, it is important. It is really important that we get a reputation as welcoming and nice people.
Brilliant. So we've been talking about the club off the field, David. Question, I suppose, the $1 million question is, now that you're chairman, what are your plans and where would you like to see the club ideally in 3 years' time?
So I think one of the things that has been missing over the last few years is a plan. So the first plan is to have a plan, both on and off the field, and those two things are so integrated, they're entwined. You know, what's success on the pitch breeds success off the pitch and vice versa. So on the pitch, the vision is to be back in the next level, step 3, within the next 2 seasons. I think, you know, it's been a tough season this season. We might want to talk about that later, but on the football side. But within 2 seasons we need to be back in step 3, and then my aspiration is that within 7 seasons from now we're in step 2. So that's National League South, which I think is a sustainable and achievable goal for this club, and we can sustain ourselves at that level. You know, any higher, so are we going to try and follow Dorking? No, we're not going to, because I just don't think that's a realistic proposition. I think being at step 2 is a realistic, but it will take time to build. You know, there's massive implications in terms of the ground. You have to have certain things like segregation and other turnstiles and so forth, but you have to have goals to aim for if you're going to move forward. And I think we've been a little bit rudderless over the last few seasons, and that's because we haven't sat down and said, actually, what are we trying to do here? We might not achieve it, but we've got to go for it, and that's the framework for everything you're doing on and off the pitch.
Looking at what we've got in place now, we didn't have a team, and the setup of the team the way we've got now to be able to implement some of these ideas.
No. So off the pitch is really the first thing is we've got to be self-sustainable financially. So we have to increase revenue. We have to have tight control on costs, and you know, operate within our means on a trading basis. It's been a real tricky job, I think, for all of us, and Lawrence in particular, to get hold of this sort of information about, are we actually cutting our cloth on a month-by-month basis? And the reason it's been difficult is because over the last few years with COVID, we've had grants from various bodies. We had a bounce back loan, and that's money into the club, and it's sort of masked, I think, the real issue, which is, you know, are we washing our face on a day-by-day basis? You know, we need to sift all that out, and that's exactly what Lawrence is doing right now. It's a massive job. He's the man for it, I have to say. There's a lot of detail. And then, you know, plan on that basis. So we've got to be self-sustainable. We've got to increase our revenues. We know to do that. And then the other thing is gain ourselves a reputation for being a professional club. If we have those ambitions of progressing on the pitch, we've got to act like that off the pitch. You know, we've got to act above where we are now, and bring people with us.
We'll touch on the pitch stuff in a minute, but before we do that, so if we talk about off the pitch, or sort of, you know, more widely as a club, we had a under 23s that we had to disband them. Are there any plans to bring that back?
No, not at the moment. Purely from a cost point of view, if I'm honest. You know, we need to focus on all of our efforts on getting this team. I think having a link with The Aspire Academy, which is Junior's academy that he runs with Gavin Rose, is almost as good as that.
Right, okay.
Because these are really top young players, and also they are really good people. So in that academy, as in a number of academies, it's not just about being a great footballer, it's about being a great person, having the right values. And again, that ties in with what I'm trying to achieve with this club, is we've got to have the right values.
And have we got some current players?
Yeah, so Fikayo, Alpha.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, Kenny Beanie was an Aspire Academy student 20 years ago. So Junior has known Kenny Beanie since he was 15.
Wow.
And he's a bit older now.
So he played at Dulwich, didn't he? Kenny?
He did. Yeah. So and he's a great guy, and he's an inspiration on the pitch, and he's a great guy off the pitch. So these are the sorts of characters and sort of mentality and the values that we want both on the pitch and off the pitch. So we've got so many great volunteers, and we don't talk about recognising them enough. So I just want to do that. I want to say thank you publicly to everybody, new and old, and we've had lots of new people, but there's also lots of people like Wally, Percy, and these guys. Been around for ages, and we should recognise that, celebrate it.
Yeah, from my perspective, the little media team that we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, they're brilliant, all of them, and they all contribute in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And without them, and I've said this to her regularly, without them, we don't have a club. It's as simple as that. We're not able to do these type of things. We can't get the photographs out that Stuart's now producing on. Obviously, prior to that, we had Justine. We've got Chloe now doing some brilliant stuff for us. We've got Ryan, who keeps you updated when he's here match days, doing Twitter and helping me in the background, which people don't see. Chris, who, bless him, he comes in, he goes up on that gantry, and he's freezing cold, he never moans, and he films all the games as much as he can so we can get some footage out after the games. Yeah. And then you've got George doing the PA stuff when I'm not there as well. So they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. None of them ask for anything.
Absolutely. And that's, we talk about the word community is bandied around a lot. And I banded it around when we talked about the Supporters Trust before. And we operate within a community. But this club is a community. We have a community of volunteers. Who love coming here and seeing the other volunteers. We have a community of supporters, people who look forward to the Saturday afternoon. They wake up on a Monday morning and they think, are we at home next week? We have a community of nearly 400, 500 supporters. We have a community of volunteers. We have a community of players. So we just need to expand that community and recognise it. And I didn't mention you, but thank you for all you do, because I do some stuff on the website, you do most of it, and there's a lot of stuff with this club which doesn't get seen. It's not painting the walls or banging a nail in or something like that. That's good, that's great stuff, but it gets viewed. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and since I've become chairman, I've seen that more and more, and want to recognise those people that do the stuff in the background. Paul as secretary, all of that stuff. The matchday Peter as matchday secretary.
And Graham,
Kevin as fixture secretary. I mean, there's so many.
Graham doing the
program. I mean, I was programme editor for 6 years.
Right.
So I absolutely appreciate, the effort that Graham goes to producing that brilliant programme. Far better than I ever did. But I really do. I did it for 6 seasons, and it's hard work.
And one we can't forget, he sort of was with us before, and he's come back this season. Rod doing the match reports.
Yeah.
Which are well received as well.
Great reports. Yeah. I'm bound to have forgotten somebody, so I do apologise if I haven't mentioned you by name. I really do appreciate it. There are too many, and that's my point. It's a massive community.
Okay, we're going to talk about stuff on the pitch now. We've had a chat about stuff off the pitch. Very kindly told us what's been going on and what your plans are for the future. But I thought it's only fair, because there's a lot of fans that will want to know this, and I think there's no point pulling any punches here. So let's talk about on the pitch. I think so far, David, it's been quite a mixed bag for us this season. We're currently 12th on 37 points. We're 9 points off the playoffs, and we've got the 6 teams above us all got a game in hand at the moment. Unfortunately, we've had a brilliant run in terms of form, just sort of in and around the Christmas period.
Yeah.
But we've fallen away quite a bit. We're now sitting in terms of form guide, which is the last 6 games on football web pages. We're actually sitting 18th out of 20th in the form guide. So I think surely we can concede now that our plan to get to the playoffs is probably a little bit unrealistic now.
Well, I'd say it's unlikely, but and football's all about opinions. Everybody, and that's the great thing about it. Everybody should say what their opinion is, but it's not impossible. But it is unlikely. I accept that. It's been a weird season, really. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, as you say. Obviously, Hayden came on board, after a dozen games, and I think that's always a difficult, time to come in when you're inheriting and you've got to try and get your own team. And I think he said himself that he had his team really in January, and then we hit some form in January, sort of around Christmas, didn't we? And then we've fallen away, unfortunately. But that playoff expectation was the previous manager's expectation, and I think with everything we've gone through on and off the field, if we could get the playoffs, it would be a bonus. If I'm honest, I mean, my focus as chairman of the club has been around getting stability on and off the pitch. Next season, we really need to be pushing for promotion. That's an expectation. I think we'll understand that. Hayden will have had a close season. He's a very, very experienced manager, so it's not for me to tell him how to run the team or anything like that. He's accountable for the results and so forth. But I would say let's keep everything in perspective about where we've come from and the challenges on and off the pitch, and don't underestimate the impact of some of the lack of stability off the pitch to on the pitch. As I said earlier, these two on and off the pitch are entwined. They're integral to each other, and that's good and bad. So we have had to ask Hayden to cut the budget. Okay. So
and
when I said
that's important, the fans know that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when we said
we
had to make some difficult decisions for the survival of the club, we asked everybody to share the pain, and everybody stepped forward on and off the pitch. So it is really important. It's also important to know Hayden is not being paid.
Okay.
A penny.
Well, that I didn't know.
Junior is not being paid a penny. So all of Hayden and the team are given a budget, and it's for them to spend it, and they have chosen not to take any of that money themselves, and that's all being invested on the field. Now you can agree or disagree about whether it's being invested well. That's what football's all about, and that's the joy of football. And it is a results business, I accept that. But I just think with everything that's happened this season, let's be thankful we've stabilised the ship on and off the pitch, because, we were pretty close near the heading southwards. Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean, Luke resigned because the results weren't good. They were not good at all. The trajectory was downwards. So we've stabilised the ship. Yes, and I understand everybody's expectation, and that's mine for next season, but I'm thankful we are where we are now. I'm hopeful we might hit the playoffs, but I'm realistic.
The expectation is probably an element of seeing a manager that's so experienced in Hayden and so good at what he does, suddenly coming into Leatherhead at step 4, and everyone thinking this guy's going to really sort of, we're going to go on an upward trajectory, and then we're going to keep going up and up and up and up. But there's been some blips in the road, and some of the games that we've played we would have expected to win, but we haven't. But that is happening.
But, you learn a lot. You learn more from adversity and when things aren't going well. So that's all I would say is Hayden and I talk about this. Is we've got to learn from this about what we need on the pitch for next season, primarily. That's my answer to it. People can disagree. It's an opinions game.
And we can liken it, of course, to last night's game, watching Man United and Liverpool, and who would have expected Liverpool to put 7 past Manchester United with no reply? And especially when you look at the form teams at the moment, Man United are the ones that are flying, and Liverpool aren't, yet they've put 7 past them. So, as someone once said, David, it's a funny old game.
The thing is, I mean, I hope everybody would agree that we're playing a better style of football than we were earlier in the season, and you know, Hayden promised that, and I think we've seen that. I think we've lacked consistency, absolutely, and that needs to be addressed. But we are playing, you know, better football.
Good. So we are still in the Southern Combination Cup.
We are.
Okay.
We want to win it.
Virginia Water. Well, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
So from a season point of view,
yeah.
On the pitch, what would success look like to you at the end of this season? When you look back and reflect, what would you see?
Well, I'd still like to have a really strong finish, and I know Hayden does when I talk to him. But you know, we still want some silverware, you know, because winning is important, and it becomes a habit, and it feels nice, and it's a feel-good factor for the club. So it doesn't matter that it's a Southern Combination Challenge Trophy or whatever it's called. It's silverware, so we want to win that. We're in it, and we're going to try and win that. And I think from a league position, I'd like to see us obviously in the top half, but pushing up towards. I mean, a bit of me thinks, oh God, I hope we don't finish 7th, because you know it's a bit like last year with the relegation. You're so near and so far.
Yeah.
But we've got to have a strong finish, and we've got to be going into the close season feeling good about ourselves on the pitch.
And expectations for next season on the pitch?
We want to be promoted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Next
season or in the next 2?
Well, the vision is within the next 2, but I'd like to think, you know, with all the tools we've got, with the people we've got involved, and you know, Hayden is an extremely experienced and successful manager. You know, don't underestimate him. He's won lots of trophies, gained lots of promotion, as has Junior. So I feel we've got on the field and off the field the right people to take this club forward. So yeah, anything less than that would be disappointing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your frank answers and honest answers, Dave, and I think that's really important for the fans, because that's something that we've been accused of in the past, of not being transparent. I know you certainly want to bring transparency back to the club.
Definitely.
And maintain it as well. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I want fans to ask the questions, and we'll give them the answers. We will not hide anything.
Now, we did arrange this sort of meeting quite late, and we put a tweet out on socials and on Facebook and so on, just asking fans if they had any questions for you. And we've had a few people respond. I will say, I'm not going to name any names, so I've had somebody actually ask me today, can I ask you why a certain player isn't playing regularly in the team? Now, I'm not going to name the player or the person that sent the email in, but I politely responded by saying that is actually, in my opinion, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that's a question that should be aimed really at the manager and not you as the chairman.
Yeah, definitely. I obviously have my own opinion, but it's not my job at the club to pick the players for the team.
Well, apologies to the person that sent that in. Yeah. That's why we haven't asked the question. Okay. But we have got some questions, and the first question I've got is from Nick Pisa. What's the backstory, he says, on meeting Peter Crouch last week? Just a friendly football chat, or are you plotting something more sinister?
We're plotting. We're always plotting to try and make more money. But no, the background is we had an inquiry from a Korean YouTube channel last week asking if we would hire the pitch out to them, because they were filming a video with Peter Crouch. So after some negotiation, we agreed a fee and a date, which was last Tuesday. And obviously a couple of us needed to be around just to supervise these people around our club. And for 4 hours they filmed, well, Peter was here for 2 hours, he arrived at 1 o'clock, filmed his video. I was here with Junior, talking about some commercial stuff, and Junior knows Peter Crouch very well from Dulwich Hamlet, because they made a documentary about Dulwich Hamlet on Discovery TV. So
he's on the board there, isn't he?
He was. No, it all ended, I think, in rather, strangely. So I don't think Peter's involved there anymore. And we invited him into the boardroom for a cup of tea to get warm after he had finished his filming, and we sat and chatted for 20 minutes. He has driven past us. He's played here once when he played with Steve Sidwell in a charity match, but he didn't really know a lot about Leatherhead, so we took the opportunity of pummeling him with information. And you never know, we might see him again. He lives locally.
He does live locally, yeah.
Yeah, and he brings his daughter to the leisure centre swimming, and his kids are at school locally. So really nice guy, very down to earth. So yeah, you never know.
Brilliant. And so nothing sinister.
Yeah, and it's just out of nothing sinister. Only good can come out of it, in my view.
Well, let's hope we see him a bit more often.
Yeah, but you know, part of, you know, we've just opened a TikTok channel which Ryan Herrick is running for us. So thanks, Ryan, for that, because none of us really understand it. But you know, it's important that we appeal to the different age groups on social media. I mean, TikTok is the one for the younger guys, so that has to have content. You know, it's all about trying to improve our profile as well, and you know, get people interested and on board. You know, so a load of clubs have done that really well, Dorking being one of them. And you know, we should be proud of what we're trying to do here, so get people on board, and part of that is getting the message out on social media.
I agree. Chris Hoskins has sent a question in. A rather unusual question. It's not football related, it's food related. So he said, he's got here, great to have you at the helm, but can you please add a decent chip fryer in the, I think it looks like he's put rear bar. I don't know what he means by that. But
T-bar.
Oh, T-bar. Oh, sorry, misspelling.
Yeah,
a typo.
T-bar.
Sorry, Chris, a little bit of a typo there. In the T-bar, the current one only does about 3 portions at a time. When everybody wants chips, it's seriously painful, apparently.
Right. I will take that on board. That's all I can answer.
Yeah.
That. Thank you for the feedback, and we will talk to the powers that be in the T-bar.
Good shout. Okay, this is quite a long one, so I'm going to read this because he's an overseas fan.
Oh right. Really?
Nick Waldron.
Okay.
No? Okay. Thank you for the chance to put a question to the chairman. He says, I live in Australia and have been a Leatherhead supporter since I was a kid living in Ashtead. My question is, my main concern is the inconsistent form of the team, especially at home. This has consistently been the problem over the past 3 to 4 seasons, which has resulted in relegation and going from mid-table to the bottom half of the table. All supporters hope the current manager and players can change this problem next season. What you, as the chairman and the board of the club, are your plans for next season regarding additional support to change the inconsistencies of the team on the field of play?
Well, as we've said before, it's not for me to pick the team, and we're all really frustrated by the inconsistencies. But we've got some great players, and we've got a great management team, and it's a source of much frustration to them. All of us who put so much time into it really feel like on Saturday when we lost. I mean, it really hurts. And it's hard then to get going again on all of the club business. But you got to look at the bigger picture here. That's the thing I would say, is we're trying to build something, and the base, we're trying to put solid foundations on and off the pitch, and we don't always get it right, but we think we're moving it forward in a positive way, on and off the pitch. It's not a straight line. You don't go from A to Z. You've got to go to A to B, then you might drop back a little bit. That's the same in any business. And to me, a measure of how far we're coming is how do you deal with those setbacks? How do you respond to adversity? And yeah, we have. We've had some real kicks in the teeth, where we thought we were going to push on to the playoffs, and we haven't, because we've not performed second half of the game. 2 games running, Chertsey and the one on Saturday. It's really painful, and nobody feels that more than Hayden and the coaching team, who do the training on Tuesday night and Thursday night, and then so try and keep a balanced view of it. All we can do off the pitch is provide the support and the stability and the welcome to the players that come here, and hope they perform. And then Hayden and his team are accountable for that.
Okay, fair answer. Dougie Fraser, we have touched on this a little bit, but he's asked, where do you see Leatherhead FC being in 3 years' time as a club?
3 years' time.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, we want to be definitely in step 3. So we want to be the next level up, and I'd like to think that in 3 seasons we'd be pushing up in the top half of that division, starting to ask some questions of the people at the top of that league. I think off the field, it would be really great to have no dramas. We've had lots of drama at this club over the last few years, and we're still getting ourselves sorted from the effects of that. And I don't want to look back on that, but I want people to understand, we've had 5 years or more of real difficulties. Everybody knows what's happened, or their version of it. Let's look forward. We've got ourselves a plan, we've got some goals. Let's be confident and try and achieve those. So off the field, I don't want loads of dramas. It would be really nice to be able to focus on, making this place a better place for people to come and play football and watch football.
Can I say it does happen at other clubs though?
Yeah, I know it does.
I'm experiencing that as a parent. Step 5.
I know. Well, it's non-league football. It's all football.
Yeah.
But I think about some of the. I think some people thought this division would be easy for us to get straight back out of. But you look at some of the clubs, Chertsey, Walton and Hersham. These are clubs like us with a great history and have done really well in the past, but they're fallen on difficult times. I mean, Walton and Hersham went down to step 5.
And Basingstoke Town as well.
And Basingstoke.
Yeah.
Great clubs, great traditions, and have been successful in the past, and because of various varying reasons, they've dropped back, got relegated, and we're the same. And they've taken time to recover. And Basingstoke have hit their step now. Chertsey have also, Walton and Hersham also. And I think we will do the same, but it can't be done overnight in a number of ways.
It's funny, so you mentioned those 3 clubs, and I can't remember if I've been to Chertsey. Is that grass pitch or 3G?
Grass.
Okay, so 2 out of those 3 clubs are 3G that you've just mentioned. Basingstoke and Walton. And they're seeing great success. Just a thought. Anyway,
the style of football we want to play needs a good surface.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mike Powell sent the question in. The Supporters Trust. Where are we with this project at the moment?
Right. So as most people will know that I was leading the charge on being a Supporters Trust, so becoming a community-owned club with the club owned by the supporters. And that would involve a legal change where we would all become owners of our club. Well, obviously, once we uncovered the lack of control on the finances and the situation when we lifted the lid on that, it was quite clear that it would be the wrong thing to ask the supporters to become the owners of a club in that situation. It's just, in all consciousness, I would not be able to ask, and it was right that people wouldn't want to become owners of a club which was challenged, should we say, in that area, and a number of other areas. So we just weren't right for it, to be honest, but that wasn't visible. And I've explained some of the reasons why that maybe wasn't, that some of that financial stuff was masked because of things like COVID and some of the one-off transactions in that period. So we need to get ourselves in shape with trading, properly and profitably, or at least washing our face, and then we'll go again and we'll have a look at the supporters. So to be clear, the club is owned now by 9 shareholders, and all of those shareholders are owning the shares on behalf of the supporters, as it has been for a number of years. But there are now 9 shareholders who will report, obviously, to the club members at the AGM, which is now going to be in early July. We hope to release the date of that soon. So that's a long-winded answer. Say we thought we were ready. We discovered some stuff. We're definitely not ready. So it's postponed, but it's still an aspiration of mine to do.
Okay, good.
Basingstoke Town are a community-owned club, and I took the opportunity when we were down there a couple of weeks ago of chatting with their board about how that works and stuff. I mean, they haven't got their own pitch, so they're a community-owned club on a council pitch, council-owned pitch, or an FA-owned pitch.
Yeah, so the FA base there.
Hampshire FA. So, you know, in some ways we're in a stronger position because we have our own pitch, but we're not ready.
Derek Tanner.
Yep, great name.
It is a great name. Now, do you reckon he changed his name to
Maybe.
support Leatherhead?
Maybe we should all do
Or does
that.
he just go on the name of Derek Tanner? Because
that is his name.
That is his actual name?
Yeah.
Can we have a Q&A in the clubhouse at some stage with the manager as well as the board?
Yes, absolutely, definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know Derek?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Hayden came along to the Tanner Supporters Club meeting and took a short Q&A, but that was some time ago, and obviously not everybody is a member of the Supporters Club. So, yeah, I do think we would do that, and it's certainly, we should probably do that towards the end of the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know when, if you want me to help facilitate.
Yeah,
I can do that
that's
as well. We had a sort of quite a late question come in.
Oh, yeah.
Someone on email, which I'm not sure the relevance of this, but it actually says, my question for the chairman is, what does he make of the current league structure with third and fourth bottom being in a relegation playoff system? Did you know that?
Vaguely,
Yeah,
I did. I didn't really look at the relegation because I didn't want to think about it too much.
No, well, I think it's safe to say I don't think we've got to worry about that.
No.
For the rest of the season, but basically the bottom two get relegated.
Yes.
The then next two go into a playoff system across the divisions where inevitably someone else will then end up getting relegated.
Well, based on what happened last year, I'm not really a fan of it, if I'm honest, because we didn't benefit from that last year, did we? Because we ended up on more points than the team that stayed up in step 3. So to me, if you're going to get situations like that, I'm not a fan of it. Let's just leave it within the league. So yeah, that would be my comment. But I'm not really.
But in fact, we probably would have taken that playoff game last season, wouldn't we? Rather than points per game.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, we would have. Yeah, definitely. As it turns out.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. There's, to be honest, there's those are the powers that be. They come up with these ideas and stuff, and we have to work within it as a club. There's lots of stuff at the club we need to be worrying about and sorting. Yeah,
it's funny because when you look at the new relegation law, if you like, that the FA have put in place for step 4 and step 5, it doesn't actually work across both step 4 and 5 because they have the playoff system at step 4 for relegation, but they don't have it at step 5.
Oh right, I didn't.
Yeah, it's a bit. And I had to read it 3 or 4 times to realise that they didn't include it. So look, we'll leave the FA to do what the FA do, which is baffle the life out of everybody. That's the end of the questions that we've got from the fans. So I think this has been really beneficial for the fans. Hopefully they're going to watch this back and take something positive out of it. I think you've been very open and very honest, which is great because I think that's something I've been calling for a long time as well. Any ending messages? Any messages for the fans?
Yeah, I mean, just be positive and keep questioning. Absolutely, you should do that. This is your club. We talk about. So I think one of the questions was, what are my plans? It's not my plan. It's not even the board's plan. It's the club's plan. It's our plan. We're all involved with this to a greater or lesser degree. So you need somebody to lead it, absolutely, and I'm honoured to be able to lead this club and the board. But it's our plans, and we should discuss those plans. I mean, those visions are my vision, and we've talked about them at the board. But it's all about opinions. People, please keep asking the questions. Please ask me in the bar or at games or whatever. I'll give you an honest answer as much as I can all the time because, I was a big advocate of that when I was a supporter and that's how we're going to lead it. So, but be positive. There's lots of great things going on. We've got great people at this club on and off the pitch. So there's every reason to be cheerful. Brilliant. And on that note, thank you very much for your time, David. Pleasure. And bid you a very good evening. Yeah, good night. Cheers, Simon. Bye.